that my name is Gal and I'm Jewish, and we have had enough of Jew hatred.
I'm in the thick of rehearsals for Romeo plus Juliet, so I'm gonna get out of here. Bye for now. The Friday Story notes how a couple of minutes after posting this, she replied to her own tweet and wrote, "And always remember, free Palestine."
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
We need to talk about what's happening with Disney's Snow White remake, because this situation is getting messier by the day. Not only has the movie completely bombed at the box office, but now Rachel Zegler is reportedly blaming Gal Gadot for the disaster. And trust me, the behind-the-scenes drama between these two stars is actually wild. Let me break down what's really happening here, because Disney executives are absolutely furious. Let's start with the numbers, because they don't lie. Snow White is shaping up to be possibly the largest box office bomb in Disney history. We're talking about a $300 million loss at minimum when you factor in the marketing and the multiple rounds of reshoots. As of today, the film has only managed to bring in around $170 million worldwide. To put that in perspective, the Minecraft movie by Warner Brothers completely outperformed Snow White on a massive scale, despite having a fraction of the budget and none of the Disney marketing machine behind it. But wait, because it gets even worse. Movie theater chains and Disney are beginning to pull this movie out of theaters at a rapid rate. They're not just doing this because it's a bad movie. They're doing it because nobody is showing up to watch it. There are reports of completely empty screenings across the country. This is an absolute disaster for Disney, and executives are scrambling to figure out who to blame. But according to insiders, Rachel Zegler has already decided who's responsible, and it's not herself.
We would see people not condemning Hamas, but celebrating, justifying, and cheering on a massacre of Jews.
When you leave the scene, I turned to the camera and I was like, Gal's mad. It was but then you were FaceTiming your kids right after, being like, hey, so much. It's so good.
Here's where things get really interesting. According to multiple sources who were present during the filming of a special featurette for Disney+, Rachel Zegler had an absolute meltdown on set and directed her rage at Gal Gadot. This featurette, titled The Making of Snow White, was supposed to be the final stage of the press tour for the film. Disney invested between $1.5 million to $2 million in this project alone, which was going to be released on Disney Plus to help promote the movie. But during filming, Rachel Zegler reportedly lost it when Gal Gadot was struggling to remember some of her talking points. According to one source, there were moments where Gal was losing her train of thought and not remembering some of her talking points after being overwhelmed by Zegler's intense energy that she was giving off in the interviews. This led to a shocking moment where Rachel allegedly shattered at Gal on set. Between takes, Rachel reportedly made multiple remarks toward Gal, calling her very incompetent, irresponsible, and unprofessional for showing up late, even though, according to sources, Gal was actually on time and well on schedule. The tension between the two stars became so unbearable that Disney executives and producers had to physically remove Rachel from the set to separate her from Gal. Can you imagine how bad it must have been for Disney to intervene like that?
There are a lot of reasons you have to suspend disbelief when you watch a movie like Snow White. You know, there's magic, and there's talking forests and animals that act in human ways and such. But probably the biggest aspect of disbelief you have to suspend is the idea that Gal Gadot, as the wicked witch here, as the evil stepmother, is somehow less good looking than Rachel Zegler.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Come on, gang. We ain't blind. And I understand that we're supposed to pretend that disabilities no longer exist or something, but we're not all blind. We can still see. Gal Gadot is a beautiful person. And Rachel Zegler is a fairly good-looking person. I don't know if that mirror was broken, but that has to be one hell of an acting job by Gal Gadot. She looks into the mirror, and she says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And then they show her a picture of Rachel Zegler, and somehow she has to not burst out laughing.
But wait, because it gets even more shocking. According to insiders, during one of the breaks in filming, Rachel Zegler demanded that Gal Gadot never bring up Israel again, both in her career and on camera when being interviewed by the media. For those who don't know, Gal Gadot is Israeli and has been vocal about her support for her home country, especially following the October 7th attacks. This demand from Rachel was not only inappropriate, but crossed a major line. Gal reportedly refused to comply with Rachel's demands, which led to even more tension on set. Rachel then allegedly threw a fit and claimed that Gal was trying to steal the show from her. The situation became so toxic that Disney producers couldn't even use the footage they shot because both actresses appeared visibly angry toward each other during the interviews. That's $2 million down the drain because Rachel couldn't maintain a professional attitude. What's particularly interesting about this situation is how Gal Gadot handled it. Unlike Rachel, who seems to be lashing out at everyone around her, Gal maintained her professionalism throughout the ordeal. However, after Rachel's outburst, Gal reportedly informed Disney producers that she never wants the shot footage to ever surface. She also pushed Disney to lock up some deleted scenes from the actual movie that she performed with Rachel. Shockingly, Disney agreed to Gal's demands, which reportedly infuriated Rachel even more and created an even wider grudge between the two actresses. This is a fascinating power dynamic because it shows that despite Rachel being the lead of the film, Disney values their relationship with Gal Gadot more. And why wouldn't they? Gal has proven herself to be a box office draw with the Wonder Woman films, while Rachel has now been associated with one of Disney's biggest flops. What's becoming increasingly clear is that this isn't an isolated incident with Rachel Zegler. Sources close to the production have revealed that director Mark Webb had significant issues with her behind the scenes of Snow White, which is exactly why they had 3 rounds of reshoots. But it wasn't just limited to Rachel's acting. She reportedly got involved in creative differences between Disney and the creators of the film, even though she's just an actress. She apparently believed she could get involved in the writing process and directing style, rather than staying in her lane and just performing her lines. This is a pattern we're seeing more often in Hollywood. Actors and actresses who believe they know better than the writers, directors, and producers who have spent their careers mastering these crafts. But Rachel seems to have taken this to a new level. One source described working with her as walking on eggshells because you never knew what might set her off. This kind of toxic work environment doesn't just affect the quality of the film, it drives away talented people who don't want to deal with the drama. Let's be honest about what really happened here. Disney took their most iconic fairy tale, the one that started it all for their animation studio, and decided to fix it by removing everything that made it special in the first place. No romance, no Prince Charming, no someday my prince will come. Instead, they gave us a lecture about female empowerment that nobody asked for. And to make matters worse, they cast an actress who spent the entire press tour trashing the original film and telling half the country not to see the movie. This is a masterclass in how not to remake a beloved classic. Disney forgot the first rule of entertainment. Entertain first, message second. People don't go to Snow White for a political lecture. They go for magic, romance, and the fairy tale they grew up loving. What's particularly frustrating is that Disney already knows this formula works. Their most successful live-action remakes, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, were all fairly faithful to the originals. It's when they try to fix what wasn't broken that they run into trouble. But wait, because it gets even worse. Disney is now facing a federal investigation over Snow White. That's right. The Federal Communications Commission has launched an investigation into Disney's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr sent a letter directly to Bob Iger stating, "Numerous reports indicate that Disney's leadership went all in on infamous forms of DEI discrimination a few years ago and apparently did so in a manner that infected many aspects of your company's decisions." This comes after Elon Musk leaked internal Disney documents showing racial quotas for hiring. One document stated that 50% of regular or recurring characters must be from underrepresented groups. The FCC is concerned that these practices may violate federal prohibitions on discrimination. Look at the casting for Snow White. It looks nothing like the German fairy tale it's based on. As one commenter put it, it looks like a Lizzo concert just let out in downtown Los Angeles in 2025, and everyone's headed to Diddy's white party afterwards. Disney would never do this to Wakanda, Coco, or Mulan. It's only European fairy tales that get this treatment, and that's by design. Remember when Bob Iger went on CNBC and claimed that Disney doesn't push messages in their content? He said, "When I came back, what I have really tried to do is return to our roots, which is remember we have to entertain first. It's not about messages." Well, that was a lie. James O'Keefe captured one of Disney's VPs on hidden camera saying that Bob Iger is actually the one pushing all the diversity quotas. Bob has a say in the diversity stuff when they're casting people. 100% he gives the direction. He's the one saying that we need to ensure that there's no white men. The VP continued, "He's the one who says we have to have substantial diversity," referring to Disney's spreadsheet of racial quotas. This is the same Bob Iger who's now trying to pretend that Disney is just about entertainment, not messages. The hypocrisy is staggering, and it's no wonder Disney's stock is stagnant. Investors can see through the lies. The big question now is, what happens next for Disney? Snow White is a disaster, they're facing a federal investigation, their stock is stagnant, and they've alienated a huge portion of their audience. Some analysts are predicting that Disney might shelve some of their upcoming live-action remakes, or at least reconsider their approach. They've already pushed back the release dates for several projects, including the live-action Lilo and Stitch and Moana. As for Rachel Zegler, her career might be in serious trouble. Hollywood forgives many things, but costing a studio hundreds of millions of dollars isn't one of them. Don't be surprised if she suddenly announces she's taking a break from acting to focus on her mental health, or some other PR-friendly excuse. Disney is also likely to implement stricter social media policies for their actors. The days of letting stars say whatever they want while promoting a film are probably over. Expect more controlled interviews and less access to stars in the future. The failure of Snow White isn't just about one bad movie or one problematic actress. It's a symptom of a much larger problem in Hollywood: the disconnect between what executives think audiences want and what they actually want. People don't go to Disney movies for political messages or subverted expectations. They go for magic, romance, adventure, and the familiar stories they grew up with. When you take Snow White and remove everything that made it Snow White, you're not being progressive. You're just making a bad movie that no one wants to see. The irony is that Disney already knows this. Their most successful live-action remakes, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, were all fairly faithful to the originals. It's when they try to fix what wasn't broken that they run into trouble. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Rachel Zegler right to blame Gal Gadot for the film's failure, or is she just looking for a scapegoat? Do you think Disney will learn anything from this box office bomb, or will they continue down the same path with their future remakes? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Hollywood deep dives like this one.